What is up, boys and girls? Today we're going to be going over UFC fighters who are actually very similar in the way they fought. And this video took a lot of time, dude. I went back to the drawing board. I rewatched tape. I studied. I did hours of research trying to determine the UFC fighters who are the most similar in their skill, in their style, in the way they move, in the way they fight, in the way they punch, in the way they kick. So yeah, I took a lot of time on this. It would mean a lot if you could go ahead and subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It would mean a lot if you could go ahead and subscribe. But without further ado, let's get into the first two fighters who I believe are very similar fighters. The first two we have Petr Yan and Magomed Ankalaev. Petr Yan in the bantamweight division, Magomed Ankalaev in the light heavyweight division. I'm not comparing weight classes, I'm not comparing builds, obviously. This is more of a pound for pound style video in terms of their own technical skills. So yeah, Petr Yan, Magomed Ankalaev, obviously the light heavyweight champion. Petr Yan, former bantamweight champion. And both of these guys are world-class strikers. I believe Magomed Ankalaev is a world-class striker. He is second best striker in the light heavyweight division. Petr Yan's probably the best. He's probably the second best in the bantamweight division. So both of these guys, they're some of the best strikers in the UFC, but they're probably the second best striker in their division. You know, Magomed Ankalaev, he's getting beat by Pereira in terms of striking, and Petr Yan, he's probably getting beat by Sean O'Malley or Corey Sandhagen. Maybe he could be one, I don't know. But yeah, second best striker in their division. These guys have a similar ground game. You know, both of these guys have very high level wrestlers, and they don't really have much of a submission game. You know, we think of Magomed Ankalaev and everyone thinks that this guy's, oh, he's a Dagestani threat, man. He's a real problem. People like Tori Cave, they say Magomed Ankalaev, he's a top level wrestler. But when you actually get into it, you think, okay, you know, he's a wrestler who can take you down if you need to. It's in his back pocket. But realistically, he's not going to submit you. This guy got submitted by Paul Craig. He's not. And Magomed Ankalaev has, like, I don't even know. He has like 2 submissions in his entire MMA career. So they're not going to submit you. Petr Yan, obviously, I don't know how many submissions Petr Yan has in his entire career, but he's not one of those guys who's going to take you down and submit you. Both of them are primarily boxers. They're primarily boxers who can dig into their back pocket. If they really need to, they'll take you down. That's just a fact. And yeah, I think those two guys are very similar fighters in terms of their fight style. And another thing that makes them very, very similar is how the UFC hates both of these guys, man. Petr Yan, he lost his title due to an illegal knee. They didn't disqualify him. I mean, they did disqualify him. It didn't go to a technical decision. It didn't go to a no contest. It went to a disqualification. The first time in UFC history a title fight had ever changed hands via disqualification. They've robbed him so many times. They robbed it against O'Malley. They robbed him against Aljamain Sterling in the rematch. They hated Petr Yan for a little bit for some reason, and Magomed Ankalaev as well. This guy went through so much just to get a title shot, dude. This guy was going through the ups and downs. I talked about it in a couple videos ago. I said Magomed Ankalaev had to face Johnny Walker twice. He had to face Ian Kutalaba. He had to face Alexander Rakic. He went through a lot to get his title shot. And the UFC just despises both of these fighters. I don't know why, but I think these guys are very similar fighters. And yeah, that's the first two fighters who are very similar. Moving on to the next two guys. Technically not two guys. It's more of like five guys. Five guys. Not the restaurant. Just the fighters. Venicius, Olivera, and the Fighting Nerds. Okay, like I've seen a video the other day. It was Supera MMA. He was comparing Venicius Olivera to all the Fighting Nerds: Gene Silva, Mauricio Ruffy, who else? Carlos Prates, Kyle Barajo. Venicius Olivera feels like a fighting nerd. He genuinely does. He's obviously Brazilian. That's the main like similarity between both of those guys. But I agree with Hupero's MMA comparison completely. I think he fights very similar to Gene Silva in particular. Gene Silva, he usually has his hands down when he keeps his distance pretty well. He has his hands down when he's far, and obviously Venicius Olivera, we've seen what he did against Kyler Phillips a couple of days ago. And the kid, he would probably be a little bit better if he could just keep his hands up a little bit more. He needs to keep his hands up, dude. This guy, he was getting pieced up by Kyler Phillips in some instances, so just make sure to keep his hand up. Gene Silva, he doesn't usually get his head bounced around like Venicius Olivera was doing the other day, but still, dude, Gene Silva and him, very similar fighters. Their hands stay down a lot when they're further apart from their opponent. Great leg kicks, dude. Venicius Olivera's leg kicks are elite, and Gene Silva, he uses those leg kicks to his advantage. He keeps his distance with those. And yeah, very similar fighters. The distance management, the Fighting Nerds have some of the best distance management in the UFC. I'd say Carlos Prates actually has pretty bad distance management, but Mauricio Ruffy, great distance management. Kyle Barajo, great distance management. And Gene Silva, great distance management. I don't know why Carlos Barata's distance management is pretty bad. You know, we've seen in his fight against Ian Gary, he was just getting pieced up. He couldn't find a range. So maybe Carlos Barata is the only one with bad distance management. And yeah, similar stance like I said. And obviously, he has the aura, dude. He has the knockout against Sopa, that Sopa kid, in his first fight in the UFC. He flying kneed him, knocked him out brutally. One of the nicest knockouts the UFC has ever seen. And similar to the rest of the Fighting Nerds. The Fighting Nerds, they're all trick-shotting people. The Fighting Nerds, Carlos Barata is knocking out, I don't know. Who is Carlos Barata is knocked out? Neil Magny. He's knocked out no, not Mike Malott. What's the kid's name? What's his name? The kid Mike Malott just fought. I don't remember his name. Oh, I'm a casual. But you know, obviously Carlos Barata has knockout power. He's knocked out a lot of guys. Gene Silva, he was rocking up Bryce Mitchell a couple of times. He knocked out Bangladesh. And yeah, very similar fighters. Venicius Olivera is a very similar fighter to the rest of the Fighting Nerds. The next comparison I do have, RDR and Drius Duplessis. RDR and Drius Duplessis, when RDR first came into the UFC, when he had that first fight against GM3, and which we'll talk about a little bit later, everyone was saying, bro, we got the next Drius Duplessis. We got Drius Duplessis 2.0. And it was kind of a joke at first. But then this guy fought Kevin Hall, and then this guy fought Bo Nickel. And people actually started catching on, dude. This clunky striker, this Dutch kickboxer, who shouldn't be good, is somehow winning against guys who he shouldn't be winning against. He beat Bo Nickel. He was a big underdog in that fight. He beat Kevin Hall, and I think he was an underdog in that fight too. And all of a sudden, this guy's fluked his way into a #1 contenders fight with Robert Whittaker. And I've seen this story before. I've seen a clunky striker who struggled against a crafty vet. Obviously, RDR struggled against GM3, and Drius Duplessis struggled against Derek Brunson. They found their way in a match against Robert Whittaker. And let's see what's going to happen in that Robert Whittaker fight next weekend. RDR is obviously facing Robert Whittaker. And Drius Duplessis fought Robert Whittaker, a huge underdog going into that fight, and he knocked Robert Whittaker out. If RDR beats Robert Whittaker, well, then we literally have Drius Duplessis 2.0. There's no way about it. That'd be funny as heck if RDR actually managed to knock out Drius. But obviously, both of these guys had a very dodgy performance against a crafty vet. Then the Whittaker fight. Who knows how RDR will do against Whittaker? Obviously, both of these guys are just very goofy fighters. The way they fight is just very goofy. The Dutch kickboxing, very weird grappling. RDR has great jiu-jitsu. That's just a fact. Some of the best jiu-jitsu in the middleweight division right now. And Drius has weird and goofy takedown entries, yet he still manages to get you to the ground, and he'll stay on top of you. He has good control when he's on top of you. He controls Strickland in that first fight. He controlled Izzy, obviously got him down to submit him. Very similar fighters, dude. They're both decently well-rounded, and yeah, man, both of these guys similar as heck. The next two guys I have, Rufus. We got Big Rufus in this video. Justin Gaethje made it into this video, and we're comparing him to Diego Lopez. Both of these guys are absolute blockheads. They're both marauders. Let me tell you, dude, both of these guys are marauders. They'll bite down on the mouthpiece. They'll get gritty. And that is true, dude. These guys are both marauders. I feel like the main difference between both of these guys is when we think about Justin Gaethje, I don't know why Justin Gaethje gets so much hate. Why does Justin Gaethje get so much hate, dude? One of the funnest fighters in the UFC. I get it. Lately, this guy's been saying some pretty crazy stuff like, bro, if I don't get a title shot, I'm gonna retire. But still, dude, Justin Gaethje served us some insane knockouts over the years. He served us some of the best fights of all time. That fight against Michael Johnson will never be forgotten. So stop with this Gaethje hate, man. Stop with it. Gaethje, the main difference between Gaethje and Diego Lopez is when people talk about Gaethje, it's like they talk about this guy as if he's a bum who doesn't ever have a chance in a fight. When we talk about Diego Lopez, we talk about maybe, man, that one-shot knockout power. He might be able to fluke a win. For some reason, people talk about that for Diego Lopez, but they don't talk about that for Gaethje. Both of these guys are marauders. They have the same combos. These guys have very similar combos. That's something I've noticed, you know. A lot of the other guys, they fight the same, but Gaethje and Diego Lopez, they do the exact same combo. They do where they tuck their chin, the counter combo, they tuck their chin, and they either clinch you, give you an uppercut, or they give you an overhand. They do that a lot, and it's the same combo. Both of these guys are the same fighter, dude. Diego Lopez has some decent leg kicks. Justin Gaethje has obviously some of the best leg kicks in the game. And the narrative around both of these guys is that they can't really beat well-rounded fighters. Diego Lopez lost to Movsar Evloev. He lost to Alexander Volkanovski, obviously two very well-rounded fighters. And Gaethje has lost to Olivera. He's lost to Khabib. They both can't beat top-level, all-around fighters, and they probably both won't be champion. But who knows, man? Maybe Diego Lopez can fluke a KO over Movsar Evloev. I don't know, man. Obviously, they both have knockout power. Diego Lopez pretty much knocked out Brian Ortega 5 times in their fight. Gaethje served as some of the best knockouts in UFC history, dude. Knocked out Tori, knocked out Michael Johnson, knocked out Chandler, knocked out a lot of people. And, yeah, I actually didn't knock out Chandler. I think that fight with Chandler went to decision. But you guys know what I mean, dude. Gaethje obviously has knockout power, a lot of knockouts. And, yeah, I think both of you guys are also, Gaethje and Diego Lopez, the most exciting fighter in their respective division. Both of these guys are very exciting fighters. And when you look at lightweight, Ilia Topuria is probably up there, but Gaethje's also up there. And you look at featherweight, who's up there? I mean, Volk's pretty exciting. He's decently exciting, but Diego Lopez is always putting on bangers. Some of the most exciting guys in their division. And yeah, Gaethje and Diego Lopez are very similar fighters. The final two guys that I have that I'm here to compare, Joshua Van and Jack. Let me tell you about Jack Della Maddalena. Jack Della Maddalena, he's a marauder, bro. He's an absolute marauder. Obviously, they were the thumbnail of this video. They inspired me to make this video. I was looking at it. I was thinking, man, I love Joshua Van. I was daydreaming about Joshua Van like one does. I mean, we all dream about Joshua Van, right, guys? And I was thinking, dude, Joshua Van, he's a very similar fighting style to JDM. JDM, obviously, we'll talk about the similarities, dude. Both of these guys have laser lock takedown defense. Both of these guys probably have, I'd say they're top 5 best takedown defense in the UFC. They probably, Joshua Van, don't even get me started. I can talk about Joshua Van's takedown defense for at least an hour, bro. I mean, Joshua Van, what's the question? Joshua Van's takedown defense? Yeah, one of the best in the UFC. And JDM, he's obviously been able to prevent takedowns from Bilal Muhammad. He's been able to prevent takedowns from Gilbert Burns in some instances. Great takedown defense, dude. That's not a question. Joshua Van, great takedown defense. They're the best boxers in their division, dude. JDM's the best boxer at welterweight, and at flyweight, Joshua Van's the best boxer there. So both of them are very similar in terms of that, and they don't really have insane power. Both of these guys aren't gonna knock you on one punch. They're not gonna absolutely chin you. They're not gonna put you out cold. But they're volume guys, dude. Over time, they're gonna get to you. We've seen it in the Bilal Muhammad versus JDM fight. We've seen towards the end of that fight, JDM low-key entered flow state. He was just piecing up Bilal at range. He was popping the jab. He was twitching. He was feinting. He was switching stances, dude. He was hitting with the uppercut. 1-2, body, leg kick, uppercut. And Bilal Muhammad getting pieced up. Joshua Van, don't even get me started on Joshua Van's combos, dude. Joshua Van, precise, technical, experience, amazing body shot, body jab, right hook, left hook. And yeah, Joshua Van, best boxer in his division. JDM, best boxer at 170. They don't have a lot of power, but their volume is crazy. Over time, these guys are going to get to you. And similarity is both of these guys kind of got a big step up in competition very soon, but it paid off. Obviously, JDM, he was fighting Gilbert Burns, has a decently competitive fight with Gilbert Burns. And all of a sudden, this guy's in a title shot against Bilal Muhammad. He won the title shot, and pretty good fight that. Very good fight. Both of them won the fight where they weren't expected to win, and a pretty great fight. And Joshua Van, he took that fight on short notice. Obviously, it was a big step up in competition. He went from fighting Bruno Silva to Brandon Royval. He got it done still. And yeah, man, they both won their fights in very crazy fashion, entertaining fashion, and with a big step up in competition. Obviously, Joshua Van is going to fight for the title very soon. That fight's pretty much confirmed. JDM probably will be champion for a little bit longer until he fights Islam. So who knows, dude? These guys obviously are very similar fighters. With the rest of a lot of these guys in the video, this took a lot of time for me to make. I believe all of these guys have very similar fighters. And if there's anyone I missed out on, let me know, dude, because I was looking through the rankings and there were a couple other guys I was like, maybe they can slot into this video, but I ended up going with these 5 guys. So thank you boys for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and even leave a comment like Tori Cave. Shout out to you. That's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. MMA Outpost out.